You know, at the heart of Charles Dickens' classic, Great Expectations, there's this huge secret. It's all about a hidden fortune, a mysterious benefactor, and a young man whose entire life is built on a guess, and a pretty dangerous one at that. So today, we're going to unravel that central mystery. And it all kicks off right here, with this one single brutal moment of humiliation. You've got this young orphan boy, Pip. He gets called to a rich lady's house to play, and he's just torn to shreds by this beautiful but ice-cold girl, Estella. And these words, they change everything. They plant this little seed of shame inside him that's going to grow into this massive, all-consuming ambition. But before all that happens, who is Pip? Well, he's just a boy from the marshes, an orphan, really. And his entire world, his small world, is basically split down the middle by two huge forces: fear and kindness. At home, things are rough. He's brought up by hand, which is just his sister's code for being raised with nonstop threats and her disciplinary cane, which, get this, she actually calls tickler. Yikes. But then you've got the forge. And in the forge, there's Joe. Joe's his brother-in-law, but he's really Pip's only true friend, a total gentle giant who gives him nothing but simple, unconditional kindness. And this huge contrast, sheer terror versus real tenderness, that's basically Pip's entire childhood right there. And then, bam, two encounters happen that just flip his world upside down. First, out on the misty marshes, this escaped convict, desperate, shivering, grabs him and pretty much threatens to kill him unless Pip steals him some food and a file. A totally terrifying secret for a little kid to have. And then he gets summoned to this bizarre place called Satis House. It's this crumbling mansion that's like frozen in time. And there, the strange, wealthy woman, Miss Havisham, just sits and watches him play with that same cruel girl, Estella. So you've got this ghost of crime on one hand and a ghost of wealth on the other. And little does Pip know, these two things are about to get tangled up in a way he could never, ever imagine. All right, so years go by, Pip's now Joe's apprentice, and it looks like he's all set for a simple life as a blacksmith. But then, one day, everything changes. Dramatically. This super serious London lawyer, a guy named Jaggers, just shows up out of the blue with some absolutely mind-blowing news. Turns out, some secret benefactor has given Pip a massive fortune. An inheritance. The catch? Well, there are a few conditions. He has to always go by the name Pip, he has to pack up and move to London right away, and he needs to start his training to become a proper gentleman. But here's the thing, Jaggers won't say who the benefactor is. He's totally tight-lipped. And just like that, we have the central question that's going to drive this whole story forward. Who on earth is bankrolling all of this? Now, in Pip's mind, the answer is a total no-brainer. It has to be Miss Havisham, right? I mean, she's the only rich person he's ever met. He becomes 100% convinced that she's the one pulling the strings, that she's shaping him into a gentleman so he can eventually marry Estella. And this isn't just a hunch for him. He bets his entire future, his whole new identity on this one single assumption. So off he goes. Pip moves to London, and the big transformation starts. But here's the problem. As he starts shedding his old self, he also starts losing some of the best parts of who he was. And just look at how superficial this new life is. He's got a huge allowance, he's learning all the proper etiquette, he's got fancy new friends. He even joins this exclusive club called the Finches of the Grove, which seems to be mostly about spending a ton of money on dinner and arguing. Oh, and yeah, he gets himself into a massive amount of debt. He's got all the gear of a gentleman, but does that actually make him one? And this next part, man, it just perfectly shows the real cost of his new life. His best friend, Joe, comes all the way to London to visit him, and Pip he's mortified. He's actually ashamed of Joe, of his simple manners, the way he talks, his fundamentally good heart. And Joe, bless him, he picks up on it. He can feel Pip's embarrassment. So he gives this really formal, heartbreaking little speech and basically makes his excuses to leave, promising he'll never get in the way of Pip's fancy new life again. It's just devastating. Pip got everything he thought he wanted, but in the process, he completely lost his way. Fast forward. Pip's 23 now. He's officially a gentleman, he's drowning in debt, and he's still waiting for Miss Havisham to finally reveal her master plan for him and Estella. But the truth is coming. And it's not going to be what he or anyone expects. And the scene for this reveal? Oh, it's perfect. It is a dark and stormy night. No, literally. The wind is howling through London, shaking his apartment building like it's a toy. It's exactly the kind of night where secrets have a way of coming out. And then he hears it, a heavy footstep on the stairs. Thump, 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 coming right for his door. He's not expecting anyone, and with the storm raging outside, that sound is just creepy, ominous. He opens the door, and there's this rough, weathered-looking stranger, someone he's never seen before. The stranger starts to speak, and bam, Pip's entire past comes crashing right into his present. The man mentions the lone, shivering marshes, and suddenly Pip knows. There's only one other person on Earth who shares that specific, terrifying memory with him. His blood just runs cold. It's impossible. It just can't be him. But it is. The visitor is Abel Magwitch, the convict, the man from the marshes all those years ago. He explains everything. He was shipped off to Australia, worked like a dog his whole life, saved up every single penny, and secretly sent it all back to that lawyer, Mr. Jaggers, for one purpose: to make Pip, the little boy who helped him, a gentleman. It was never Miss Havisham. It was Magwitch all along. And just like that, in one single moment, the world that Pip so carefully built for himself, it doesn't just crack. It completely explodes. I mean, look at the breakdown here. It's just devastating. On one hand, you have Pip's expectation. His money came from the elegant, high society Miss Havisham. The reality? It came from Magwitch, an escaped convict. He expected that becoming a gentleman was the key to being with Estella. The reality? A total fantasy he made up in his own head. He thought his status came from high-class approval. Nope, it was funded by the blood, sweat, and tears of a criminal he finds disgusting. And we're not just talking disappointment here. This is pure horror. Pip is totally repulsed by Magwitch, but he's also terrified out of his mind. See, Magwitch came back to England illegally. If he gets caught, the sentence is death by hanging. So Pip realizes he's not just linked to a criminal. He's hiding a wanted man, a dead man walking right in his own apartment. It really makes you rethink the whole idea of a benefactor, doesn't it? Pip had this picture in his head of a fancy patroness just kindly handing down a gift. But the reality, wow. The reality is a man who was so grateful for one tiny act of kindness from a child that he literally dedicated his entire life and was willing to risk his own execution just to see that boy from the marshes grow up to be a gentleman. But here's the amazing part. As Pip's whole fake life comes crashing down, something real starts to grow in its place. That feeling of disgust he has for Magwitch, it starts to fade, and it gets replaced by a sense of duty, and then, surprisingly, by genuine affection. By losing the money he thought made him who he was, he finally starts to find his true self again. He remembers the importance of loyalty, of forgiveness, all that simple goodness he'd forgotten, the kind he used to see in Joe. And all of this leaves us with one heck of a question, doesn't it? The secret behind Pip's fortune isn't just a clever plot twist. It's a takedown of the entire idea of social class. I mean, if a so-called gentleman can be created, bought, and paid for by a criminal's life savings, then what does being a gentleman even mean? And maybe more importantly, what is it that really makes a person great?